A summary of the book Mentes Perigosas o Psicopata Mora e Oledo by Dr. Ana Beatriz. The summary includes a story about a scorpion and a frog, which serves as an analogy for the nature of psychopaths. The book discusses the topic of psychopathy, addressing the violent and inhumane behaviors exhibited by individuals and the destructive impact they can have on society. The author explains that psychopaths are not always easily recognizable, as they can deceive and manipulate others effectively. They may appear charming, intelligent, and seductive, blending in with society while pursuing their own self-interests. They can be found in various social spheres and professions, and they often go undetected for long periods. The book explores the different levels of psychopathy, ranging from moderate to severe. Psychopaths may engage in cheating, scams, and manipulative behavior without resorting to murder. However, regardless of the severity, they leave destruction and harm in their wake. The author aims to inform and raise awareness among the general public about psychopathy, helping readers recognize the signs and protect themselves. Real-life stories of psychopathic individuals and their victims are presented as examples, highlighting different levels of psychopathy. The book strives to provide insights and parameters for evaluating our contribution to a social culture that allows psychopathy to thrive. It's important to note that this summary is based on the information you provided, and it may not capture all the details and nuances of the book. Awakening in Laura a feeling of compassion and empathy for him. Over time, Laura and Ricardo got closer and started a romantic relationship. Laura felt happy and secure beside him, trusting fully in his words and promises. However, as the relationship progressed, Laura began to notice minor inconsistencies in Richard's stories and behavior. Once, Laura witnessed a scene in which Ricardo, while crying, stumbled and fell in front of her. Instead of showing concern or empathy, Carla, a mutual friend, laughed and said, "Well done, I hope you broke your arm." This attitude of Carla shocked Laura, making her reflect on the true nature of the people around her. Maria realized that Carla never had real consideration or affection for her or anyone else. Carla was a lying, deceitful, and opportunistic person, always living at the expense of others. Laura began to question her relationship with Carla and decided to completely walk away from her. This experience made Mary reflect on the importance of trusting people and how difficult it is to know who to trust. Many people seeking psychological help have been victims of trauma caused by unscrupulous people in different areas of their lives. The question of who to trust is common in her practice, and Maria believes that reliability is subjective, without a clear pattern of behavior that can protect someone from deception. Maria points out that there are no physical characteristics or visible signs that identify unreliable people. They can be very similar to us and deceive us for a long time. In addition, we often base our trust on irrational strategies or popular beliefs, which further hinders internal analysis. However, Maria says that there are people who have no conscience or noble feelings, such as psychopaths. The prevalence of antisocial personality disorder, which includes psychopathy, is relatively low in the population, but its presence can have devastating consequences. Maria highlights the importance of cultivating a sense of awareness and responsibility to protect the quality of individual and collective life. Although most people are fairly good, the culture of cunning and the trivialization of evil contribute to a scary scenario. Psychopaths and other people with psychopathic characteristics take advantage of this environment, while well-meaning people tend to walk away and get sick. In her professional practice, Maria emphasizes that the complete absence of consciousness is what allows people to perform cruel and destructive actions. She points out that these actions do not reflect typical human nature, but rather the presence of a psychopathic condition. In Laura's case, her experience with Ricardo led her to question trust in other people and to realize the importance of identifying psychopathic behaviors. She is in search of a more meaningful and safe life, overcoming her depression and rebuilding herself emotionally. The text ends by emphasizing the need for a thorough review of concepts about life and society, highlighting the importance of cultivating a sense of consciousness and responsibility to ensure a more humane and conscious world. Damage caused by that person. The text highlights the story of Laura, who was involved in a relationship with Ricardo. At first, she was attracted to his sad stories and fell in love with him. However, throughout the relationship, Laura began to perceive problematic behaviors on the part of Ricardo. Ricardo showed excessive control over Laura, preventing her from exercising her profession and making unilateral decisions. In addition, he showed a lack of empathy and cruelty, such as when he wanted to abandon a sick dog that Laura rescued. Laura also noticed that Ricardo had questionable financial behavior, filling checks in amounts higher than necessary and keeping change. He was also jealous and emotionally unstable, alternating between delicate and aggressive moments. Laura's relationship with Ricardo came to an end when he left her for a younger woman. Laura discovered that Richard had several mistresses and that her excuses for his serious illness and threats were lies. In the end, Laura realized that Ricardo was a bad man, an emotional predator. She got rid of him and was able to rebuild her life, understanding the importance of identifying dangerous and unreliable people. The text highlights the need to know a person well before trusting him, getting information about his life and observing his behavior over time. Identifying psychopaths and people without noble feelings can be difficult, but it is crucial to avoid harm and loss. Has since stopped. He describes his murders with coldness and indifference, with no trace of guilt. Peter is an extreme example of the absence of guilt that psychopaths have. Emotional manipulation and ability to seduce others. Psychopaths are masters at manipulating the emotions and feelings of the people around them. They are skilled at identifying the weaknesses and needs of others and use this to their advantage. In addition, they are extremely seductive and charming, able to win people's trust and get them to do what they want. Lack of empathy and lack of remorse. Psychopaths have a real difficulty in feeling empathy for others. They cannot put themselves in the other's shoes and understand their feelings and needs. In addition, they experience no remorse or regret for the harm they do to others. They are able to hurt and destroy lives without showing any signs of guilt. These key characteristics are just some of the many that may indicate the psychopathic profile. It is important to emphasize that the identification of some symptoms is not sufficient for the diagnosis of psychopathy, and a qualified professional is needed to perform this assessment properly. In the next chapter, the author promises to deepen the understanding of psychopaths, addressing more clinical aspects of their behavior. He highlights the importance of being aware of emotional manipulation games and the use of punishment as a strategy by psychopaths. It also highlights the need to know people well before trusting them and seeking reliable information about their lives. The hair scale is mentioned as a reliable tool to identify psychopaths, but its proper use should be made by trained professionals. The text provided seems to be a transcription or summary of a crime-related content, discussing the murder of a person named Guillermi and the involvement of various individuals in the crime. It mentions the use of a car belonging to Guillermi's father-in-law, the alteration of the license plate, and the presence of Paula in the car. It describes how Guillermi assaulted and kidnapped an actress named Daniela, with Paula taking over the driving. The details of the murder are mentioned, including the number and location of the stab wounds. It discusses the motives behind the crime, suggesting that Guillermi's ambition, arrogance, and dissatisfaction with his acting career played a role. The behavior and attitude of Guillermi during the trial are also mentioned, highlighting his lack of remorse and manipulative nature. The sentences and subsequent release of Guillermi and Paula, as well as the efforts to change the Brazilian Penal Code, are briefly discussed. The text also touches on the topic of psychopathy, describing how some psychopaths can exhibit extreme levels of indifference and engage in heinous crimes. The example of a serial killer named Francisco de Assis Pereira, also known as the Maniaco do Parque, is given to illustrate this point. The text concludes by emphasizing the dangerous nature of psychopaths and their propensity for violence, duties, and achieving results. However, after his promotion, his behavior changed dramatically. He went on to act manipulatively, lying and deceiving his co-workers for personal gain. In addition, he treated his subordinates aggressively and indifferently, seeking only his own success. Psychopaths in the professional environment are skilled at manipulating the people around them to achieve their goals. They use their ability to lie, cheat, and manipulate to gain power, recognition, and personal benefits, regardless of the negative impact their actions may have on others. These individuals are extremely competitive and don't mind stepping over others to achieve their goals. They can act aggressively and unscrupulously, always seeking their own interest. It is important to emphasize that not all leaders or professionals who present transgressive behaviors are necessarily psychopaths. There are several characteristics and specific criteria that must be considered for an adequate diagnosis. However, it is essential to be aware of suspicious behaviors, such as lack of empathy, constant lies, manipulation, and excessive aggressiveness, especially when these attitudes are recurrent and cause harm to others. The identification and proper treatment of psychopaths in the professional environment is essential to protect people and promote a healthy work environment.